Okay, here it helps to separate it, not that you have to, but these are right angles. So I'm going to put a right angle here and a right angle here. This angle is obviously equal to itself. So when we separate them, not a great picture, but gets the point across. This is the smaller 25. We don't know what the height of the student is. This is 80 and this is 20. The moment you see angle, angle, two triangles have two angles that are equal, you want to think proportion. So I'm going to set up a proportion, 80 over 25, right, equals 20 over x. Right? I'm not going to complete the problem because I'm running out of room, but 80 times x equals 25 times 20. So you would finish this off via calculator or whatever you need to do, okay? So that's number one. Please get till here and do it on the calculator. Number three is actually complicated to explain, so I'm just going to set up a proportion actually. So 8 over 6, right? So this 8 matches with this y plus 2. So it equals y plus 2 over 15. And you would cross multiply. So your initial step is 6 times y plus 2 equals 15 times 8. Okay? And you would finish the work and do this. So it's all about finding the matching sides, if you will. Okay, this is a simple, so a 5-meter flagpole is going to go here. I put 5, I put 10. And then I said a 20-meter shadow would be how much? We can do this in our head, guys. 10 times 2 is 20. So 5 times 2 is 10. The question mark has to be equal to 10. So drawing a picture helps, as you can see. It actually helps a lot. Alrighty, let's keep on going. Okay, guys, for these type of problems, they're going to be very similar. They don't have triangles, so here's what you got to remember. Height is to shadow as height is to shadow. Height is to shadow as height is to shadow. So that's your key thing to remember here. It doesn't matter where you start. I'm going to start with the 14. 14, so this height is to 17.5 as 8 is to x. And you would cross multiply, right? I'm going to leave it like this. So height is to shadow as height is to shadow. Guys, 16 is a good problem because it's tricky. Now, if I make x angles, we know the vertical angles are equal. It's that in disguise, guys. So this angle is equal to this angle, vertical angles. You don't have to, but I'm going to redraw the top triangle down here. This side's obviously 4. This is 6, right? And then this angle is equal to this angle. So I think that makes it easier, right? The moment you see angle, angle, you want to think proportion. Let's get rid of this one and focus on this one right here. Right? So 15 is to 6. 15 is to 6 as y is to 4. And you would go ahead and cross multiply. 6 times y equals 15 times 4 is 60. Divide by 6, divide by 6, you get 10. Right? So it was tricky, but look for angle, angle, It's always there. A lot of times it is. Okay, let's do 17. So a 3-meter pole casts a 5-meter shadow. 25 shadow is how many? Right? So it's a question mark. It wants you to assume angle, angle. So here's the question mark. Now we could do this in a proportion, but let's just use logic. So 25 over 5 equals x. I'm going to call the question mark x over 3. 5 times 5 is 25. 3 times 5 is 15. Okay? Okay. Here, again, assume parallel lines. So we assume this angle is equal to this angle is equal to itself. So we have angle, angle. You don't have to separate the triangle, but it might help. So I have a simple relationship. This is x, and this is 5. This is 5 plus 10 is 15, and this is 30. Now we're ready to set up a proportion. 30 is to x as 15 is to 5. You could cross multiply, but I would just say 15 times 2 is 30, 5 times 2 is 10. So x equals 10. I'm not going to scroll down, but I'm pretty sure it's one of the choices. X is 10. Okay? Let's do this one over here. Number 27. Again, you don't have to separate it, but it might help for the first couple ones. So let's separate it. I have my smaller triangle. I have my bigger triangle. Not a good picture, but it'll have to do. So this angle is equal to itself, and then these are right angles. So I have angle, angle. We immediately need to think proportion. 12, this is x. 66, 30. So let's set up a proportion. 66 is to 12 as 30 is to x. And you would go ahead and cross multiply and get the work. Okay? That's number 27. So next is 33. Okay. Again, height, when you see problems like this, you need to remember height is to shadow as height is to shadow. I'm going to call this x since we don't know what it is. So 50 is to 200. Height is to shadow as x is to 125. And then you would cross multiply. 200x equals 125 times 50. And you would, of course, use your calculator to help you out. That's okay. So for these type of problems, it's always going to get you the right result if you follow the height is to shadow as height is to shadow pattern. Okay. So the key thing to this thing is this angle is equal to itself. This angle is equal to this angle because of our parallel lines corresponding angle relationship. It's the same exact thing as this, you know, just harder to see in the given figure scenario. But that's all we're using there. So you could separate it, but let's try to do it without it. What's the big side of this triangle? It's 8, and then the base side is 20. So 8 is to 20 as we go to the small triangle is, sorry guys, I take that back. Let me be consistent here. The big side of this triangle is 8, right? And it corresponds to 3. The long side is 20 at the big triangle. It corresponds to y. Let's stick with that one. That's a better one to do. And then we're going to cross multiply. But once you have your proportion, the hard part is done. Okay? So that's that. All right, 44. Okay, so again, you want to try to do this without separating it. This is right angle, but let's separate it. So let's do the smaller one first, 20 and 5. And we have the right angle markings. This is 55, and this is x. We don't know what this is. So 55 is to 20 as x is to 5. And then you would go ahead and cross multiply and get the result. Okay? 55 is to 20 as x is to 5. Okay, so we see angle, angle. The moment we see angle, angle, we want to think proportions. The good news is this triangle is already set up in a nice way, so it's easy to see what the matching sides are. Obviously, this side matches with this side. So 44 is to 33 as, let's say, 27. What side does 27 match with? Y minus 3. Okay? So then we'd cross multiply. 44 times y minus 3 equals 33 times 27. Right? So it turns into a little bit of algebra, but you could do it. So either do this, or, the more math you know, the easier it gets. You could divide by 11 and 11 to get this as 4 over 3. Right? That's another option, but you can just stick to this. Okay, so guys, the whole summary of, if I could summarize this whole thing in a few words, it would be this, that here's what you need to remember. When you see two triangles have two angles, angle, angle postulate, automatically think proportions with corresponding, and that basically means the matching, quote-unquote, sides, running out of room, corresponding sides. Right? That's one thing to remember, guys. If you remember that, you'll be in great shape. Angle, angle postulate. Think proportions with corresponding sides. The moment you see two angles equal to two angles in a triangle, you know you can set up a proportion. That's one thing to remember. The other thing to remember is height is to shadow for these certain types of problems. Height is to shadow as height is to shadow. Okay? That's one thing to remember. And the one last thing to remember is you might have to use your knowledge of parallel lines. So what I mean by that is we have to remember, we learned that if lines are parallel, the two main relationships are alternate interior. Let me make it better. We learned about this relationship and this relationship. So it might be hidden. In cases like this, you'll see a triangle, you'll have a parallel line marking. So this is angle, angle in disguise. What do I mean by that? I mean, this angle is obviously equal to itself. Now, this, look at this compared to the left. It's the same thing. It's just harder to see it in this triangle scenario. Okay, what's an example of alternate interior hidden? You'll see stuff like this. Right? You'll see stuff like this. This is parallel to this. So these angles are vertical angles, but it's hard to see, guys, but if you look hard enough, you should see that this angle is the same as this angle. It's all based on vertical angles, okay? Alternate interior angles. If you keep those two things in mind, you'll be in great shape, okay? So please work diligently. Make sure you respond on the computer. You'll be in good shape.